Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shawcross, licensed agent with Second City Real Estate. With me, as always, is Mark Ainley, owner and founder of GC Realty. Mark, what do you want our listeners to do with that subscribe button?
Well, you got to smash that subscribe button, right? That's we got to bring that energy, right? So smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave us a review if you're listening to iTunes, Google, Amazon. Leave us a review, a 5-star review, because we're hopefully adding value to your investment career.
We are going to get Straight Up Chicago t-shirts that have smash on them. I think we got to incorporate that somehow.
I'm writing that down.
Write it down. Check us out on the merch store.
So, hey, how you bought all these? I know we talked about this in the last episode, but I'm curious to know, you bought all these flips. I think you had like 8 of them like last fall, and you underwrote these to be these much lower interest rates on the back end. Like, how's that affecting your buyer at this point? Have you seen are you still getting the price you wanted? Like, how has this change, or this concern about inflation and rising interest rates? How's this affecting this back end of all these huge, massive projects you had going on?
Yeah, like, fair question, right? It's obviously when you're going to be on the selling side of things, you want these rates to be as low as possible. What has been good for us is, we didn't underwrite these things being like, hey, this is going to be song and dance like this forever, right? These are, we punted on a lot of deals. What I'm more happy about is, and I think Chris and I just had this convo a couple of days ago, is like, we were saying, oh, this sucks. Like, we probably can't push the limits on these like we thought we might be able to. And we're like, all right, they're still very healthy. Thank God on all those ones we punted on, right? There's some of those marginal ones where if rates stayed at 3, you'd be like, oh, this is a great deal. And like, now that rates are at 5 with that end buyer, maybe it's not worth the time and effort. So the good news is demand is still lacking. Or I'm sorry, supply is still lacking and demand is still very strong, right? Even if rates go up to 5.5, and maybe they are by the time this airs, I don't know. Maybe they go back down. I have no idea what they'll do. But regardless, like, there's still not enough good quality products out there. And maybe you don't push the top end of that ARV, but like, you're still going to land pretty well here, right? Maybe you don't get the 14 offers in one weekend, but you're still going to have an end buyer. So we're still out there buying. Like, we still feel really good. But yeah, you got to be aware of it.
Well, sellers, even if you get one offer in 14 days, like, by like historical standards, that's still awesome.
That's just it. It's, we're so used to like, oh, like, this didn't sell first weekend. It's like, well, no, like, we used to have to grind these things out for months. Like, like one showing a weekend, be like, all right, hopefully this guy's it. Like, you gotta, it's the same thing with rates too. Like, I remember refinancing, down to 5%, be like, all right, this is awesome. It's all perspective.
Yep, the rates are not going down. I know you were thoughtful there on that comment, but I don't think it's going down. But keep in mind though, there's right now of getting all those crazy offers or first weekend, like, there's still a good, like, we're talking about market times the other day for a particular neighborhood. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, someone was like getting stressed because it was like 2 weeks and we only had 18 showings or something like that. And, like 2 bad offers. It's like, man, like, you are so like, we're good still. Like, just, it's going to happen. Just give it another couple of weeks.
Yeah. So it's, we still feel there's not enough good supply out there, and we're still full speed ahead.
Nice.
What's our housing provider tip of the week?
Housing provider tip of the week. What we did this year, getting ready for lawn season, is think about our 25 by 100 deep, 125 deep lots here in Chicago. All you people that own your 2 and 3 flats, some single families are set those similar lots, but to hire a lawn service to come out just costs $35 just for them to show up, usually per push. And some of these have such small, you take a deck, you take some sidewalk, and they have such a small strip of grass. So what we did on a few properties, we worked with a few owners to take that small strip of grass that was left and maybe convert it to mulch or convert it to rocks. Or one person, that one deck he always wanted to put into, based on him putting the deck and removing all the lawn, he now, what he spent on the deck, if you even take into account the increase in lumber, in 3 seasons of not having to pay a lawn service to come out, he'll be break even. So for these small lawns, if you can find a way to add value to your property, he added value to his property too. He's got that deck that people can actually use now. So if you can take that consideration for some of these smaller lots or smaller grass patches, and do something to get rid of that, so you can get rid of just having to service the lawn altogether, it could be a much better, smoother process for you.
Yeah, I love that. We actually, and if you're going to be playing in like almost like an A space as well, the synthetic turf, right? It's going to cost much more upfront, but the smaller the area, like the quicker you'll get that ROI.
Yes. We have a property in Bridgeport that that has that there. There's a couple actually over there that have done that, and we stole it from the neighbors, that idea. So that works out great, and it's not that expensive either, especially when you compare it against the usually, for a 2-flat, to have a lawn service come out, usually about $400 to $500 a season, $350 to $500 a season, depending on how often you got to come out that particular season.
Yeah, and if your current yard is crappy already and you need new sod, like that's the time to do it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, don't yeah, just get it done in one shot there. All right, Mark, we ready to go here? This is going to be a great episode for you. This is right in your wheelhouse here.
Property management, software, tech, like I'm in. Like, this is great.
Yeah, I don't know. I might do the intro and like just sit back here. But all right, so today's guest, just wonderful things to say. We thank Sabrina Wattring again for bringing us another wonderful, experienced guest who's going to provide a ton of value to our listeners. But today's guest, while scaling her property management company from 5,000 to 27,000 units, 27,000 units, it's a lot. She could not find the right technology solution, so she created her own. She's the founder and CEO of Fortress. Fortress is a revolutionary software company shaping the future of property management. It's an easy end-to-end property management operations software platform. She leads the team with an emphasis on transparency. She has a ton to talk about. This is something that is used nationally, but it's also very important here in Chicago, where we have a lot of different, we have affordability functions. We have most landlords aren't taking security deposits. We have a lot of little nuances that something like Fortress looks to address. So without further ado, Kerri Davis, welcome to the show. Kerri, I probably butchered that intro, but I hope you will still stay with us here for the next 40 minutes.
No, you actually did a great job, Tom. And actually you sold it very well. So I appreciate it. And I'm super happy to be here. So thank you both, Tom and Mark.
Awesome.
Well, talk to us about how you got into the management space or into real estate space, and just kind of give us a 2-minute overview.
Yeah. So interesting segue into property management and real estate. You should probably know that I'm an accountant and an attorney. So I'm never the life of the party, but I can tell you that I love a challenge, and I'm a diehard problem solver. So my first job post law school was actually working for a Department of State contractor in Iraq, where I focused on accounting, HR, logistics for about 900 team members. And a few years later, I actually took an accounting and HR opportunity with the Elmington team, and began my career in real estate with a very, very small, at the time, group based in Nashville. My first office was actually in one of their closets. So a very humble beginning in real estate, but come at it with some unique experiences.
What were you doing in that first role that you had in property management?
Yeah, so I started off managing their financials and HR, and it began, the reason they brought me onto the team, it all began with a 600-unit apartment community in Louisville, Kentucky. And the really interesting part about that is this was 2013, and it was a 600-unit apartment community, and they were still managing everything on Excel, and I am not kidding you, paper ledgers. But I was shocked by that, of course, when I first walked in. But then we started to transition that property to one of the larger property management softwares, and I very quickly realized, oh, like, shit, I know why they were doing this manually. This software sucks. Like, it's terrible. It was incredibly difficult to use, and it required an immense amount of corporate support for onboarding and training and understanding and bugs and all the things. And we couldn't support that at the time. We had to figure it out, because we weren't going to do it via paper, but it was really difficult. And it like I said, shocked to see paper, but then quickly understood why, and continued to kind of push through the obstacles of prop tech through the years.
Anyone listening, you took that role as a finance. We need a director of finance for GC Realty. So if anyone listening out there, I keep putting it out there. We're going to find someone eventually through our network here. So keep that in mind. So you started working with this software. I was going to ask you what it was until you went on a little more rant on there, so I will refrain from that. But we'll talk softwares off the shelf once shortly. But you obviously you onboarded into this new software. What was, like, as a property manager, from a property manager standpoint of like being functional on the day to day, like what was it that the software you guys originally onboarded like lacked? Like where are the pitfalls for these?
Yeah, so The core property management softwares today, they provide all of the necessary features that you really need to manage your asset, right? So management of your rent roll and your applications and your move-ins and your move-outs and your work orders and your final account statements, right? So they do all the features. The problem is they're really difficult to use. Most of them were created 20 to 30 years ago, and they're just hard. So as we were growing our property management company from that original 500 units to this 27,000 units that we were at when I stepped away to focus completely on Fortress, we realized that we were constantly adding to our corporate overhead to manage onboarding and training and even just providing information to our owners and our leadership that no one was able to access in this software that we were paying almost $3 million a year for. And so it just kind of hit us that if we were going to become a different property management company, and if we were going to create efficiencies and success in property management, we needed to find an easier way to do it. And that's where Fortress came from. It was born out of the knowledge that technology should make managing and owning real estate easier, not harder. And that's why Fortress came to exist.
That's awesome. I'm sure you know this, but for the listeners, like the average property management company size is only 250 doors in this country. Mm-hmm. So that means that these off-the-shelf companies, like that's still a big improvement from an Excel spreadsheet. And a lot of people find it revolutionary. And when you have only a few operators in a company, it's not as big, the communication tools part of it. But if you're going to expand, like it sounds like you guys were already on the way to that, like it makes it tough to use these kind of call it stock type features. How long was it you guys, I know it takes years sometimes to do some of this stuff. So we shifted to our own platform, and it's a work in progress for 10 years, right? But how long, when you guys shifted, like what was like the time frame for you guys kind of build this out and say, hey, this is something we actually market third party? Yeah,
the product that exists today, Fortress, has been in development for 4.5 years. So we started almost exactly 4.5 years ago with the build. We built it we focused exclusively on development for a year, rolled it out beta to a few of our assets for about 6 months, and then we rolled our entire portfolio on it. So Elmington Property Management's current 35,000 units have been on Fortress for right at 3 years. And 2 years ago, we decided to start looking to other property management companies to bring on a few strategic partners who could help us continue to build the product and perfect it for mass use to include smaller property management companies. And so we've had about 4 or 5 external property management companies on the system for the past 2 years.
Awesome. Taking one step back, Kerri,
yeah.
When you say like, hey, we had problems, we had pain points to address, mm-hmm. Can you just give a tangible example of 1 or 2 pain points? Like what were some of the obstacles that they were running into where, hey, like we need to build something because off the shelf is not working here?
Yeah. So the main pain points that we incurred, first, training and onboarding and offboarding. And I think a really good example of this is I'm a lifelong recruiter. So many times
you're sending me all those LinkedIn messages.
Yeah. Yes. No, actually, that's not the way I do my recruiting. I am the
finance director.
Well, my source is probably not your ultimate source, but my husband makes fun of me because we could never go to dinner without a great server and me trying to recruit that server, right? We always need leasing consultants. The industry struggles really heavily, or even maintenance technicians. I've actually hired servers to be maintenance technicians because you need that great level of customer service for someone who's entering someone's apartment just as much, right? Yep. So it depends on their skill set once you get to know them. But if I engage with someone and it is positive, I am going to see if there's a way to hire them. The problem is that when I brought those people into our tech stack, so they say, yes, it's amazing. We go through the onboarding process. They come and sit in our office. They are being trained on our tech stack. And 30 days later, they're like, I'm out. Like I am a 20-year-old who grew up in the Amazon, Google, iPhone world. And you're asking me to work in a software that I don't, it's incredibly difficult. And I don't understand it. And I'm not enjoying my job. And that happened to us consistently. We struggled heavily to retain and train talent. And we also, when we were about 15,000 units, I had 4 corporate team members who were devoted to nothing but onboarding, training, and managing issues with my tech stack. And now today, Elmington Property Management is 35,000 units, and they only have 3 people. So we were able to over double and still hardly increase the number of people that we have in that area. So training, onboarding, and just the issues that come up with that. And then another really great example, I mentioned that at some point we were paying $3 million a year for our tech stack. And the corporate leadership and owners and asset managers aren't even using it. They're still asking their on-site teams for manual reporting. So manual fat-fingered Excel files that are being sent to executive level leadership to review because the system isn't generating, or better yet, forget generating, isn't giving them a space or an app or a place to see the actual performance of their asset in real time where you can actually make an impact.
For our listeners, we have some bigger ones, and then we have some smaller ones, or a lot that strive to be big. Like, at what point does it make sense to go from Excel spreadsheet to some sort of software? Maybe not Fortress, but just software in general. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So Fortress offers some unique in-system solutions, such as the ability for a resident to have an app and to make their payments online and to process work orders online. And I would say that if you are dealing with work orders from your residents, or if you're sending them bills and you're asking them to pay online and you don't want to deal with the accounting behind that, or depositing manual checks, then I would say that you're ready for a Fortress at any stage, really. We're actually a great example. We're actually working with someone right now who is in the process of acquiring their first 7-unit asset. And that's it, 7 units, right? And the thought process there is, well, let's manage it with Excel and paper, right? And my argument is, why wouldn't you use Fortress if that means that those 7 residents can make all their rent payments online? They're not calling your cell phone to create work orders, and you're not worried about documenting that for fair housing purposes, right? Everything's flowing through a system. What would impede you from doing it? And he's communicating these things to me, and I think Fortress solves a lot of them. So our setup is incredibly easy. Fortress administrates it, so you don't actually have to have this upper echelon of corporate overhead to manage it. I think we've proven that through Elmington's example. And you don't even have to manage your financials inside of Fortress. We're not this incredibly complicated, robust GL system. We are an operations platform for you to manage your rent roll, ensure that you're receiving your payments, and make sure that you're managing your work orders and anything in documents, those sort of things, in compliance and in accordance with fair housing, in a way that is really simple. Like, I actually love the conversation you guys had before you introduced me, which is about figuring out how to turn your small lots into accretive value while reducing your spend, right? Like, work smarter, not harder. And that's what Fortress is all about. It is really, the why behind us is it should be simple, and it is. So I would say, even if it's just 7 units, like, you should give it a try. If it doesn't work, great, go back to Excel. But at the end of the day, if you're able to manage everything in a compliant way and it makes it easier for you, you should use it.
Well, I think, so we use AppFolio, and that's part of the reason why we've had to branch off. And one of the challenges we had with AppFolio was the inability to move information. They don't have an API, which, for anyone that doesn't know what API is, it's just the ability to connect other systems, pulling information from AppFolio and then plugging it in. Mm-hmm. And for us, AppFolio was our only solution. So our tech stack started having, we had a maintenance module we're using outside of it. We had a inspection module we're using, and we're able to connect all those together. How have you guys been able to overcome some of those API challenges of the off-the-shelf ones?
Yeah. So Fortress is hosted on AWS, and our API structure is very flexible. I wouldn't say that today we have a quote open API. I would actually say that instead we have focused on creating holistic custom APIs with each partner we choose to work with. So a really great example and something that's really applicable to the Chicago users would be an integration that we're working on right now with Rhino. So Rhino is a security deposit alternative platform that has integrations with some of the other property management softwares. Not all of them, as you mentioned, some don't offer integrations at all. But the integration that we're building with Fortress is going to be end-to-end and completely holistic. So it not only allows your applicants to go through the security deposit application or the security deposit alternative process and to purchase that essentially insurance through Rhino and no longer need a physical security deposit, but it also allows you as a company to file for damages through Rhino through the core system. So we actually take integrations really, really seriously. We have API connections with some pretty large groups like TransUnion and others. So our API abilities are very, very robust, but we like to keep them holistic and customized. You mentioned affordable being huge as well, and we have a couple of really great affordable integrations too.
Got it. So when you talk about operations, can you just walk us through at a high level, maybe like a workflow for either getting a listing posted or a tenant comes in with a work order? Like, how is my life different with Fortress as opposed to today where, it's me or my team or whatever doing that? Like, where can you just like try to make it really, really relevant to that person sitting there who's handling everything?
Yeah. So you have a resident who lives in one of your units, and they at any time can be sent a link to a portal. Right. So let's say they just moved in, and as soon as they move in, they receive a link that says, hey, like sign up for your portal for Tom's apartment number 9. And they sign up for the portal. When they need to enter a work order, they go into that portal and they enter a work order. This is the same place where they are also making payments or seeing information about their balance on their account or adding a dog to their unit so that they can sign a dog amendment addendum. It's also where they're signing their leases and applications and all of those things. So they receive this portal link and they go in there and they create a work order. Now they can actually create a work order for something inside their unit or something outside their unit. And when they do that, it goes into Fortress as something your team can manage, but it also can send an email to as many people as you want. So let's say you want to receive an email every time a work order is entered. You don't want a phone call from that resident, but you want an email and you want it to be documented and to go through the system. So renter creates work order. Work order is stored and all those details are created in a snapshot in Fortress. You receive an email that has happened. If it is a priority work order, it'll be escalated. And then in Fortress, you have the ability to even assign that work order to, let's say in this area, you have a contractor, Joe's Home Improvement, and he handles all of your work orders for you. So you see this work order, you recognize it's a legitimate work order, you assign it to Joe. Joe receives an email with a copy of the work order just because you assigned it to him. And now he knows that work order needs to be taken care of, and he can actually go take care of it for you. And then he can also log into an app, see that work order, and complete that work order and give you details about it. And all of this is happening in the system.
Got it. So you have a one-stop shop for the tenant to make their requests. Obviously, it probably takes a little bit of training to them, right? Hey, don't call me, go use the portal, right? Like there's a little bit of, you got to onboard them as the housing provider. Mm-hmm. And then you also need to ensure that your team is able and willing to use the technology, correct? Like those are like the two things I would call out as like, all right, for this to work, X, Y, that's the X, Y, Z that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, I do think that, there are very few renters today that aren't using an app or a portal for something, right? And I actually think that Most renters would prefer to do that than to give you a call. And they would prefer to be able to see all of the work orders they've ever logged with you. So they have access to all that data too. And I think we're eliminating the need for additional phone calls to continue. Like, you now don't have to call Joe's home improvement. You can just assign it to him and he'll receive an email with the work order. So this introduction of external vendors into the Fortress environment is also a very unique concept that we've created.
I think in recent years, the topic has came back up about customer experience, customer being our residents at this point. Mm-hmm. I think for a while there, we tried going to tech, and then we've had to bring it back. Now, I think our industry, property management industry in the last 20 years has changed drastically by technology, but I think they so many people came in and tried to make it all tech, like versus and taking the human component out. How is property management software, and you even talk specifically about Fortress, able to really enhance the customer experience to be able to be side by side of the actual human interaction that people still don't need these days? And let me add one more tail on that. How does that help the landlord, the owner, the property manager's bottom line as far as retention and so forth?
Yeah. So I would say that Fortress has taken a unique approach to the tech versus human interaction with your residents. And I think for us, it is just as much an art as it is a science. And Fortress can do some really unique things, like 7 days post move-in, automatically send a text and an email to that resident and ask them, if there's anything that they need and if they've been happy with their move-in so far. And 3 days after a work order is completed, can automatically send an email and a text message to the resident asking them how their work order was. But then from there, we are consuming the responses in Fortress and scoring those, but we're not responding to them. And we're still encouraging human interaction at that point, but we're centralizing it in a way that makes it much more efficient for the smaller property owners and larger property owners to have more control over those responses. So whether you manage a 10 200 unit communities or 10 2-unit communities, you need a centralized location to respond to all of these responses that are coming in from your tenants, because I do believe that human element is still needed. And I think that if you combine the tech and human elements, that you will create a much larger satisfaction with your residents. Now, in complete transparency, I don't have data on that for you today. We are in the process of evaluating that and trying to assign a very specific ROI to it. I don't have it for you today, but I can guarantee you that it will be impactful.
Isn't it 75% of all stats are made up on the spot?
Yeah. I tell my team all the time, if I use a percentage, it's not accurate. So I try really hard not to do it.
That's awesome. So what are some of the things coming ahead then? Right. So it sounds like you guys are, this has been in development, but it's not some proof of concept. It's out there. People have purchased it. You have people large owner operators, and you're talking to someone with a 7-unit. What's the roadmap? What else can our listeners be excited about moving forward with Fortress?
Yeah. So we have a few really interesting integrations on the horizon. I mentioned our affordability component. So we just rolled out an integration with the work number, and that allows us to instantaneously pull pay stub details for applicants. And that is on the affordable and conventional side. We are also in the process of building an integration with Till, which is and it'll be a holistically embedded integration, where Till can offer flexible rent payment solutions to our residents and allow them to essentially prepare for their monthly rent and or take out loans for that rent as well. It'll also allow owners to report for a positive credit score for the residents who are making their timely rent payments. And then also we took an investment from Walker and Dunlop about 6 months ago, and they have been a phenomenal partner. Something that we're working on with them that I think will be really incredible, especially for the smaller owner, for the smaller community size owners, is integrating information about recommendations on refi or disposition based on current operating data. So if you can take real-time operating data out of Fortress and analyze that data for opportunities to either refi or dispose an asset, there's a huge opportunity to provide some value that isn't currently available in the market through real-time data. So those are a few of the things that we're really excited about working on the rest this year.
Any predictions to what the customer experience looks like 20 years from now? What's the 2040 view of a customer experience renting from landlords?
From Mars.
That is such a great question. And, I think this is probably one of the most interesting parts of a pitch, right? So if I go into a property management company and I start telling them about Fortress and the value that Fortress provides and what it's going to do for them and their corporate overhead and their on-site teams and all of the payroll, there's this mixed emotion, right? So there is relief that there is an opportunity to reduce those costs. And then there's this fear of what that means and who is really getting eliminated and how many of these positions are being removed from property management. I don't think that it's going to be a drastically different interaction unless we all believe that algorithms are going to be running our lives in 20 years, which that's a whole other conversation. But I don't think it's going to be drastically different. I just think that we need to find ways to centralize the process. So if we could have a team that only does leasing and a team that only manages renewals and a team that only manages work orders, and you are allowing groups to specialize and be extremely efficient in what they do as it is related to the customer experience, I think that we create an opportunity for success and that meld of tech and human interaction that is really efficient and a cost savings for all of us, and that the resident really enjoys. So that's part of our goal at Fortress.
Cool. That's one of the biggest things we went back to doing is the specialization. Having one person, that's all they do is turnover. One person does rent renewal rates. One person or 3-4 people do leasing. So the specialization definitely offers a better experience for our clients and then also the residents too.
Yeah.
Yep. Kerri, you mentioned this is for operations. You've laid out a lot of different ways that it can help someone. Does this work at all with, call it, marketing? And when I say market, I mean, if I'm reaching out to other property owners to buy their properties, like, is there a CRM aspect to this? Or if not, is that just a plug into some sort of CRM that you are using on, call it, the acquisition side?
Yeah. So Fortress does not currently have an integration with like a Salesforce to be used for owner acquisitions. It could. I'm not sure how that would work with our platform as it's designed today. But I would say that, again, a huge part of the investment from Walker and Dunlop is figuring out how to provide an end-to-end life cycle solution for owners. So I still don't know that I get to the CRM that you're asking about, but I do think that we get to a place where pro formas and due diligence is information that is stored or created inside of Fortress and then carried through the actual operations. And you can provide trending and analysis between the pro forma and the actual operations. And then, of course, as I mentioned, kind of the really interesting part of this, which is the back end and determining whether or not we can surface opportunities for disposition or refi. So if we can figure out that end-to-end life cycle, I think that would be really valuable.
It will be super valuable because no matter what, years go by and we've improved, but our number one complaint of our people is they got to log into too many different places to do too many different things. So
yeah.
Every little step you take to combine logins for simple language there, I think that's you'll be that much further ahead of the rest of the market.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Mark, you got anything else?
No, that's I could get into workflows and start talking about more stuff, but I will bore the heck out of our listeners. So I want to leave on a high note.
so Kerri, I have one more. Obviously, I know pricing is going to be dependent on everyone you talk. There's a million variables that go into it. But can you just share some of the things that affect pricing, right? The guy with the 7 units is going to pay a different number than the guy with 35,000 units.
Yeah, is it a per door pricing model?
Just some high level of what someone can expect.
Yeah. So our current model is per door. But I love that you started that by saying that there could be like a million different things that go into determining pricing. And some of my partners still see this as the altruistic Kerri coming out, but it's my goal that that's not the case. So this should be a per door per month cost. And I do believe that is fair and equitable, and it works really well with our processes, but I don't believe that it should change based on the features that you have. For example, saying that texting and emailing in your software today should cost you an additional 25 cents per unit per month is ridiculous. Like in what world should we in 2022 have a software that doesn't allow you to text and email with your residents and record that information, right? So for me, there's a set of features that you should have for managing an asset, whether it's 7 units or 50 units, and that price should be the same. And I do not love offering scaling discounts either. I think that the smaller unit complexes are actually the ones that need the lower prices. So to offer it to the largest groups doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. And I'm not here to be like the most cost-effective solution you're ever going to find. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to make your life easier, to hopefully help you scale back on payroll costs and to match your technology stack to your company's objectives. And so, in terms of what is our per unit per month cost, without an accounting package in the back end, we're right around $2, and we offer all of the solutions that we've talked about today.
Good stuff. Mark, anything else?
That's it, man. Let's move to the wrap up.
Let's do it.
All right. So what is Fortress' competitive advantage? How have you guys been able to take market share from others?
Yeah, easy. That's the answer. Fortress is easy compared to any other solution out there. Great story. Onboarded a 6,000 unit company out of Seattle a couple of weeks ago. And we had one of the managers call their corporate office crying because she said that she's never understood how to use the property management software that she was given. And now using Fortress, she understands her job and feels so comfortable in accomplishing her goals. And that's it. Like the software is as out of the box easy as you can get. And then to add on to that, we have a completely integrated onboarding, training, and post onboarding walk me system that allows users to on demand learn how to use the system while actually using the system. So if they need to process a move-in and they need to access the training resources to do that, they can access the training resources, say, tell me how to do a move-in, and they actually do that move-in while they're being told how to do it inside of Fortress. So I really think our differentiator here is that we've built a system that everyone from the maintenance tech to the owner wants to be in the system, using it, seeing the data, because it's so easy for them to use.
So Kerri, put on your consultant hat here for 1 second. What is one piece of advice you would tell someone looking to buy their first property?
Yeah, so I think my response to that would be the response that I give to almost any consultative question, which is, trust your gut and make sure that you're working with the right people. So whether those people are your lender, your broker, the seller, I think that it is, if you can work with the right team, you can accomplish just about anything. And I am a huge proponent of not overanalyzing and just trusting your gut when it comes to making a deal. I mean, let's be clear, at least as of the past few years, it has rarely been a mistake to have purchased or owned real estate. So it's generally the right decision. It's just making sure that you're doing it in a way that is going to provide value for you long-term, and not create more problems for you than benefits that it brings.
Nice. All right. When you're not living in the exciting world of being an accountant, a software developer, or an attorney, what do you do for fun?
Well, I have two amazing, rambunctious boys, an 11-year-old and an 11-month-old. Wow. So I spend the vast majority of my time with them. And then my team at Fortress also has a really fun book club. And so constantly reading and taking recommendations from them. And I would also love to say that I'm in the gym, but that doesn't happen nearly as much as I wish it would right now.
Well, you mentioned book. It was a good lead in right here. What is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you would recommend to our listeners?
Ooh, self-development activity. So, well, actually, I'm going to start with books. So I'm reading Start With Why right now by Simon Sinek, which, he takes a little bit of crap for all of his quotes out there, but the book is phenomenal. Highly recommend it. And then, I'm a firm believer in meditation and practicing gratitude. So if you've never tried a gratitude journal or meditation, either or, I think they're both incredible ways to find some space in your head that is hard to find these days, especially while being an accountant, a software developer, and a lawyer. So,
and a diehard problem solver. I like that one the most. I'm going to steal that one.
Yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, but problem solver is one that I will claim.
Awesome. All right, Kerri, besides yourself, name one person in your local network you'd highly recommend to other investors as a quality resource.
Yeah. So over the past few months, I have had the incredible pleasure of working with Sabrina Wantrang and her team at her PR firm. And it's just been an incredible experience. She has taught me so much and provided such incredible opportunities that I would highly recommend her to anyone looking to expand their horizons, or even just find other ways to engage externally in their industry.
Yeah, she's been great. She's a friendly of ours, Mark.
Yes.
A friendly of the Straight Up Chicago podcast. All right. Kerri, thank you so much. You provided a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? And is there any way they can provide value to you?
Yes. Well, thank you guys both so much again for having me. It was really wonderful. And the thing that I would want everyone to take away from this is that, if you're looking for an opportunity to make real estate investment management easier, I'd love for you to look at Fortress at fortresstech.net. And if you know anyone who is interested in becoming a strategic partner with one of the components of their tech stack, or looking to provide feedback or maybe even investment, would love to talk to them. We're still in that early growth stage where strategic partners are incredibly interesting to us. So would just love to speak to anyone that you know of that might be interested.
Awesome. All right, Mark, we got a Chicago fact, and this one's sponsored by our friends at Renovo.
Yes.
Do we have a listener?
We do. Javier Avila out of Little Village. I don't know if he's out of there, but he's got a 3-flat in Little Village, and he bought off the merch store a hat. And if I get the question right today, he gets a $100 gift card. So that's root for me. So Javier.
All right, and if anyone else is interested in sponsoring the Straight Up Chicago fact, it's our lowest level sponsorship. Jump on in.
Or if anyone wants to go buy merch and get on here to win the $100 gift card, we can do that too. So
yeah, we can do a bunch of that and then sponsor yourself.
Yes, sponsor yourself.
It's a tax deduction or something. All right, so Javier, I apologize. This would be way too easy if I just asked Mark who the first female mayor was of Chicago. We know that's Jane Byrne. But Mark, I don't know if you know this. She won the election in a landslide. Before that, she was just able to surpass the incumbent mayor, Michael Bilandic, in the Democratic primary. And all of these are documented contributors to Bilandic's downfall, except, so you're picking the one thing that wasn't part of his downfall. So are you ready? Yeah. So here we go. A, the city's slow response to the 1979 blizzard. B, his dealing with the strike of the Lyric Opera House in Chicago. C, a 1977 bomb that exploded in City Hall. Or D, his open support of the Vietnam War. These were all contributors to his downfall, except which one of these is basically false?
I know the snow one is for sure. Like they say that she won just because of the snow. So it's not that one. I don't know about a bomb at City Hall. So I guess I would go for that one.
I tried to have you read my head. I was shaking no for Javier.
So
that did happen. There's a bomb exploded. Some radicals, I can't remember the name. I looked it up though. And it started a 2-day riot among the Puerto Rican community here in Chicago, which was something I never knew about, a bomb going off in City Hall. The answer was his open support of the Vietnam War.
Oh,
something I thought I'd give you. I thought the other ones would be so specific that you would pick the general one.
Yeah, I would have. So I knew about the Opera House Lyric one. So, all right. Dang. So
Mark will give you $50. We'll call it even.
Oh, so
$50 off your next GC bill.
Javier 25. So you got Javier. You Tom's your new friend, man. He gave you 50 for 25. So, all right, Javier, we'll get that off to you. Thank you for again going out to the merch store and buying something. We appreciate your support. Yeah, that's. I'm thinking back by that question. I got to go look that up still. So, all right, cool. Kerri, thank you for coming on. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, we just did our entire resource page. We have a couple more calculators on there. New format, go on there, go hit up the merch store, buy something, be able to get a call out here on the show. Again, Kerri, thank you. Tom, thank you as always. And listeners, we will see you next week.
Thanks all.
Thanks.